All right, so we're at 65, 67. So you want to get started, Karen?
Sure.
Okay. All right, everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the College of Science and Mathematics and the School of Health Professions College Assembled. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bridget Malone and I'm the PR and Events Coordinator for CSM and SHP. Before we get started, I'd like to just review some housekeeping items. All attendees' microphones have been muted, and I recommend you use the grid view setting for the best viewing experience. Dean Karen McGee-Sawyer will be giving a brief presentation during which we encourage faculty and staff to submit questions using the Q&A box. As questions are submitted, they will be noted as received so that all the attendees can see all of the questions. And then after the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session during which I'll be directing questions to the panelists. In the interest of time, I'll be grouping together some similar questions on the same topic. Also, in the interest of time, if a question can be answered quickly by one of our panelists, they might type an answer directly into the Q&A box for attendees to see. And of course, we will do our very best to answer all the questions, time permitting. Quick warning, I like to give this warning that the questions submitted in the Q&A box are seen by me and all of the panelists, even if they're sent privately. So if you have a private question to a specific panelist, I highly recommend that you email them directly. And lastly, I will be recording this event and making it available for those who are unable to attend. Just give me a couple days for the recording to be downloaded and posted. And now I'd like to introduce Dean Karen McGee-Sawyer.
Thanks, Bridget, and thank you for all the work that you did in setting this up. Really appreciate it. So welcome, everyone, and thank you for coming to the College Assembled. And as Peter mentioned to us beforehand, this is going to be our last College Assembled as a college and school, and more on that in a second. I've listed everybody in our dean's office just because I sometimes forget that some people are new and don't have all these names and positions in your in your memory. So we'll get back to that there. I'm not going to introduce everyone because they're just in little boxes anyway. So let's get started. First, I want to really kind of mention some milestones and achievements. The biggest one is that we have our first PhD students in the College of Science and Math graduating this May. We have the first PhD clinical psychology students are being receiving their PhDs this May. And then we also have our first PhD, first students accepted into the PhD Material Science and Engineering program, as well as the first PhD graduate. So the person, Greg Taylor, he took more than a year to finish his PhD. He enrolled in the PhD in engineering and kind of followed the material science curriculum as it was going through. It's been verified, it's been accepted by the states. And so now he's our first PhD in material science and engineering program. We currently have 5 NSF career awardees in the college. Jim Grinius, Lana Vodovich Cruz, Gustavo Morales, Nathaniel Nucci, and Ileana Soto. And that truly is impressive to have 5 people at a university have it, let alone just in our college. I think we have 7 current, 2 I think are in engineering. And so, I mean, it's really a remarkable story for Rowan. And then, of course, we have one NIH R1 award, Katie Gotham in psychology. And then we have 2 numerous to mention our other NIH, another NSF in industry and DOD and DOE and even foundation of grants. So we'll get more talking about grant awards later, but I just and specifically the PhD awardees, that's pretty special. Now, as you know, this is my last year as dean, and we have a new dean coming in the fall. We just have to find out who it is. And so there is a CSM dean search. The virtual open forums for the candidates are next week. They're for faculty and staff only. Students are going to be involved in the next step. WebEx link has been sent in the announcements. Your department heads and chairs have the CVs, and they should have shared them with you. The way they'll run is that the candidates will present for about 30 minutes, followed by 45 minutes of question and answers. This is your time to get to know the candidates, to get to know their personalities, to get to know what their values are, and to let them know what your values are. And so remember, this is a two-way street. I mean, we're recruiting these people to come to Rowan, so it's important that they know who we are. And it's also important we know who they are. So please, the WebEx link was put in the CSM SHP announcements. If you need it, contact your department head or chair, or even just contact Bridget, she can send it to you. Big news, that is the Dean of CSM, not the Dean of School of Health Professions. And while we're, taking the college and the school from under a central leadership, they've decided to change the School of Health Professions to the School of Nursing and Health Professions. And this is good news. There is going to be a lot more emphasis on the growth of this school. And one of the goals of creating a School of Nursing and Health Professions is to elevate the visibility of nursing. For those of you who aren't nurses or have never been looking for nurses, it's very hard to find, because many people assume that it's in the med schools. Well, no, it's not in the med schools. And then if you go onto our website, you think, well, it's in the Office of Health Professions. Well, no, it's not in the Office of Health Professions. And then you try and find it and you really can't find it. So having it be the School of Nursing and Health Professions really is going to increase the visibility. Also, the plan is for nursing to really grow and eventually become its own standalone school. And so this is just one step into having its own standalone school. We have 2 medical schools, and most colleges and universities that have one medical school will have a college of nursing itself. We have 2 medical schools and not a school of nursing. And so this is just the first step. There is going to be a lot more programs in the school. And so especially new allied health professions. So that was announced at the Board of Trustees Subcommittee, Academic Affairs Subcommittee. It is announced that we are doing it, not what the exact plans are, because that hasn't been decided yet. But the School of Nursing and Health Professions, it really builds on what we already have. Diagnosis and treatment with nursing, rehabilitation with athletic training, health promotion, nutrition, exercise science, fitness management, which is in the process of being approved, in public health with our majors in public health and wellness, wellness and lifestyle management, and also a new master's program that's coming through in health equity. But as I said before, there's going to be new programs, things like respiratory therapy, which is being developed now. But then next step is medical technology degree and paramedic science. So there's a lot more of allied health programs that are going to be developed. The long-term plan is to have this school have its home near the Rowan Medicine, Rowan SOM on the Sewell campus at RCSJ. As you know, the medical school, Rowan SOM, has a campus on the Sewell campus now. They have a new building, and they really want to get the health professions and nursing closer and a closer link to that building. And the way they're going to do that is by physical presence. That's all, ideas. Nothing has been said for sure. Roberta Harvey is leading the development of the school, and I've talked with her And I said, look, it's really important that you reach out to nursing and HES and also the dean's office, because we've been working on this for the past 7 years and we know things. And so it's important that you consult us. And they said, yes, that's going to be the case. But right now, this is what I know. So I'll leave that. As I mentioned, we have some new programs and initiatives for CSM and SHP. These are things that we really think are going to be happening in the fall, if not now. So we have a certificate in holistic nursing, our PhD in pharmaceutical chemistry. We're hoping that's going to be on the books by fall 2021. Our master's in cybersecurity as well is on target for fall 21. We have a BA in fitness management, which is a 3+1 degree partnership with RCSJ. And then we have a BA in athletic training studies, which is kind of the stop out degree for students, or the intermediate degree for our students who are getting a master's in athletic training. One thing that was announced at the Board of Trustees Academic Affairs Subcommittee on Tuesday was that we now have a Rowan University Institute for Cannabis Research, Policy, and Workforce Development. And this started as really an idea that Jim Grinius and Gustavo Morales had in terms of doing just a cannabis research center. They teamed up with CMSRU, and we had really more of a scientific research center. But with the recent, and this happened pre-COVID, but with the recent vote for, on the ballot measure that New Jersey residents said that they wanted to decriminalize marijuana, as well as recent legislation that's coming through the State House, they wanted to expand this, and they wanted it to be a broader institute. So we're including, public policy and socio-behavioral sciences, as well as workforce development and commercialization through the business school. So this is really going to be a big institute across the whole university. In the curriculum coming through, we have a master's in health equity, a PhD in data science, as well as a BS in data science, and we're hoping a BA in analytics, which is in collaboration with the business school, which will be a 3+1 program. And then we also are working with the medical schools and the engineering college for an Institute for Translational Biomedical Engineering and Science. And this will be an umbrella for a PhD program in Translational BME and Translational Biomedical Sciences. And that is in the works, and we're working closely with College of Engineering and the medical school. But that's a big step for us because we have a lot of faculty who are really waiting for that. So let's talk about applications, because we need to ensure that we recruit and we do our job, we do our part in helping to make up for some of these applications. So as you can see, the yellow is academic year 2020, the brown is academic year 2019, and the gray is academic year 2021 now. At this time, as of February 1st, the number of applications to CSM and to SHP is down 31% and 34% compared to last year. The university is down 17% because that includes medical schools, which aren't down. In fact, they're probably up. But our applications are down. Now, one thing I want you to note, because we always complain about it. So, we usually find out who's coming, end of May. But note, we get increased applications through the summer, and those are important. So it's very annoying because they accept people pretty much up until the first day of classes, but we need those students. But we're down right now, and that's kind of worrisome. If you look at it in terms of colleges, it's we're down 31%, SHP is down 34%. Roar College of Business is up 1% in comparison to 2019, but that's kind of that's artificial, because if you note, they were down 31%, but that's only because they had a pre-business people that got counted in chess. So if you look at chess, they were up 27%, but they weren't up 27%. That was just business. So there's some nuances in there that I know about that aren't really important. The important thing to remember is that all the other colleges are down as well. I mean, we're down 31 and 34, but communications is down 43. College of Ed is down 29. Engineering's down 9%. Chess is 46. Performing arts is 40. School of Earth and the Environment is 31%. So this is across colleges. Now, some people think, oh, well, that's CSM, but I'm CS. I'm sure CS is fine. No, it's not. Even computer science is down 36%. So this is across all our colleges. And if you look at physics, 60%. Fall 19 is 127. Fall 2020 is 119. Now we're down at this time 48. So what does this mean? It really means that we have to do our part in making sure that if a student is accepted, we have our students available to talk with them. We invite them for virtual visits. We reach out to them, because it does make a difference when people feel like they're wanted. So that being said, this is a weird application cycle. Maybe the students just haven't applied to college yet. We know some might be postponing it because they're waiting to take an SAT. So I don't think they're as worried, because they know it's a weird application cycle, but we just have to make sure that we don't just assume admissions is going to do their job. Like, we have to make sure that we're part of that. And we've done that. We had a really successful last week. We had open house and workshops, webinars that faculty and students and gave, and we really ensured that we had a dynamic presentation and not just a bunch of words. And I heard that they were very successful. So we just have to continue helping admissions and doing our part. So this is kind of an interesting thing about enrollment, because the College of Science and Math is the largest college in the university. And you look at from 2014 to 2018, and that's why my last dean part was so stressful, because we had no space and we had to find a place for all those people. But you can see for both the college and school between 2000, FY15 and FY18, that's a big, growth. I do want to point out that SHP, it looks like it's going down, but I think that's the difference of HPE being transferred to college ed, because it used to be HPE was in the School of Health Professions, but then they corrected that. So it's not that School of Health Professions is really decreasing. That's just a shifting of enrollment. The important thing to note here is that the brown is fall and the gold is spring. And we always have a little bit of melt between fall and spring. But you can see it's pretty well constant up until we get to COVID. And that is it's a big drop. It's usually about 2 to 3%, and now it's more like 5%. So COVID is affecting our enrollment between fall and spring. And this is kind of what I was telling you about before. College of Science and Math, if you look at our enrollment, we're 26% of the enrollment of the university. School of Health Professions is about 6 or 7%. But if you look at our student credit hours, even though College of Science and Math is 26%, we teach about 30% of the student credit hours. And you also can see that with chess. Chess is about 15% of the university, but they're about 19, 20% of the student credit hours. All the other colleges, pretty much their enrollment matches what they teach. But CSM and chess are service colleges, and so we do have that added stress. So it's always nice to know these, because whenever I have a chance to say, when they try to say, well, every college will get one representative, I'm very quick to say, CSM and SHP represent 30% of the university, and it actually is over 30% of the university. So I always try to make sure that it's not this even, every college gets one. It's like, if CSM, we should get two, and then every other college gets one. But that's just something for people to know, so that you're actually aware of it, so that if you see things being everyone, say, no, we need two. So anyway, if you look by enrollment by college, the first column here is the change in the drop between fall 2020 to spring 2021. College, we dropped 5%. Typically, it's 2 to 3%. SHP was about 3%. But if you look at comparing this spring with last spring, we actually have more people this spring than last spring. So you can see for other colleges, if you look at their melt between fall 20 and spring 21, we're at 5%, but business was 7%, communications was -7%. So everyone's seeing a drop that's more than the 2 to 3%. So COVID really is having an impact, and so we actually, it's things we should know. We should know that this is happening. So if we look at it in terms of departments, again, here's the difference between fall 2020 and spring 2021. Bio's enrollment's down 7%, Chem is 9%, CS is 7%, HES is 4%, Math is 9%, MCB is 3%, Nursing is 2%, Physics is 12%, Psychology is 3%. And so, our melt between fall and spring is a lot more. So let's go on to some good news. Our proposal dollars have increased 150% in the last 4 years, and our award dollars match that almost 130% increase. So if we're asking for it, we're getting it. So at least the ask is proportional. So that's really good news. Recent awards, and again, this is only PIs. There's a lot of people who have co-Is or senior personnel, but Jim Grinius has his career award. Xiaohu Jim Grinius is in chemistry, Xiaohu is in physics and MCB. Helga Huntley is a new faculty who's has a recent award in math. Tom Keck in chemistry and MCB. Gustavo Morales has 2 new grants, and he's in chemistry. Polly Trimole in psychology has a new award, and Chun Wu in chemistry and MCB also has a new award. Supplements and modifications to a current grant. Tony got a supplement to his current industry grant, Tony Breisman in computer science. So that's a big congratulations. So the next slide looks like we have these big dives, but that's not true. Remember, this first on the left-hand side is fiscal year. And so, finishing FY20, we had total amount was 50 proposals for $5 million. These are awards. The blue and the red just talk about the difference between federal and NIH grants, but the black is the total. So far, we're halfway through the fiscal year, so that's why it's about half as much. If you look at by calendar year, so the end of 2020, we still are seeing an increase, and obviously it dives down because year to date, we've only gone through 5 weeks. So we are increasing our grant awards, and we're increasing the number of awards. I do think we are behind what we were last year at this time in terms of awards, but February is a big award month, so we're hoping that that makes up for. But again, you don't get awards if you don't have proposals. Now, this is a proposal requested amounts. These are not what we got. It looks like we have a decrease between 19 to 20, but it's really not, because this is draft versus proposed money, and we had someone put in a $12 million grant, and so that kind of, typically we offer, our grants are like, between 200 and 500, or even 200 to $1 million, not these $12 million grants. But in FY19, we put in 98 proposals. FY20 is 114. But our number of proposals, halfway through is 63, but the requested amount is a little bit lower. We had a lot of New Jersey Health Foundation grants go in, and those are only $35,000. So I think a lot of people have some proposals pending, and so we're hoping that those increase. But again, if you don't ask for money, you don't get it, and it's really important that people remain aggressive in applying for money, and not just pre-tenure people, post-tenure people as well. So one of the big initiatives that we're doing throughout this year, especially during COVID, and this is something that can't die. This is something that we really need to keep focused on. This is not a fly-by-the-night thing like, oh, we're going to do it this year, but then next year we're not going to do it. No, DEI, we really need to make sure that it's something that's central and core to our mission. We have a college committee for DEI. We have 14 members representing the 9 departments. Last June, every department gave their strategic DEI plan. And this year, our goals is to focus on the implementation of those strategic plan initiatives. And we're making sure that they reviewed your syllabi to ensure the DEI language is included. Your TNR documentation has to include DEI. I just saw that chemistry gave me their revised TNR, which showed that their teaching makes sure that it actually has something that talks about their DEI values and in terms of teaching and teaching lab. And so it's really important that every department is going to have to modify their existing TNR and actually promotion document to make sure that they have DEI criteria. The other thing is there's a lot of activities for DEI. There's certificates, there's programming, there's webinars, and we really need to raise the awareness of all those activities. I think departments are also looking at the analysis of grade discrepancies. If you look at the grades, how are our underrepresented students doing compared to everyone else, and is there a grade discrepancy? But also we need to develop resources for increasing diversity in pedagogy. The Faculty Center is developing webinars for that too, but we also have to depend on each other to share what we're doing, best practices across departments and across the curriculum. All the department heads and chairs and the dean's office are enrolled in the AAAS Sea Change, Building Gender Equity in the Academy. We had our first webinar last, I guess I don't know what day it was, this week. And it was kind of an introduction. It's things we'd heard before, but we have, I think, 3 more weeks of webinars, or 3 webinars in the next coming month. And so we're also going to try and learn to see what people are doing across the country. One of the things we started for our DEI initiative is a Road to Research seminar, which we featured some of our diverse faculty members, faculty and students, to share their research topics, their personal academic experiences, and also advice. A lot of people had a lot of different paths to get to where they are today, and the students are really enjoying this because it's real. These aren't research seminars. It's kind of, here's my personal story. These are the things I had to overcome. These were my obstacles. And they really have been a really great seminar series so far. Our next one is February 19th, which I guess is in 2 weeks. And Gustavo Morales is going to be the speaker. All of these are in the college and school announcements with links, and they're also on the website. So for the link, and more information, please see your email. Please advertise these to your students. They're in our student announcements as well, but only less than 50% of them open it. So it's really important that you encourage it because they really are fun, and it's only an hour. If students come for a half hour, that's fine, and they have to go, that's fine. But if you really try and encourage your students to attend because they really are great. One of the things that we're trying to focus on this year is the access to research, because there really is a systemic bias in which students get to do research. Because many times the students, one, have to know, one, it actually exists, and two, they have to be outgoing and confident enough to go up and talk to a professor and say, oh, I'd like to do research with you. Because many students will think, oh, well, I'm not smart enough to do that, or that's for that other person, or they look around and they think, well, why would they choose me? And so we really have to get rid of that systemic bias, because right now we just kind of leave it to a professor asks a student or a student asks a professor, and there's all these invisible outstanding students that don't even know about how to even ask. And so we are creating a student undergraduate research page with procedures. And if you have suggestions, please, I think, I can't remember, I guess it was MCB and maybe psychology actually started that. And so we're kind of taking their best practices and pulling it together for the colleges. And I was just at a meeting with the DEI division with Monica Sheely and Penny McPherson and Don Singleton and Tabitha. And this was they were all over this. And I feel as though we're behind on this, but we are so far ahead of the other colleges that they're really going to wait for, they're counting on us to do this as a model for the other colleges. We need to get started on this. We're hoping this is like something we're putting at the top of our agenda for this next month, because we are gearing up for SHP 2021. And for those of you who don't know what SHP is, it's our summer undergraduate research program. Students have the opportunity to do research activities with professors on campus or not. We have mentorship and professional development activities, as well as community building and social activities. The size of the program will follow the COVID limits set by the research office. Nominally, and this is the very minimum, we'll have 40 students because we have that much money supported from the dean's office and the NASA New Jersey space grant funding. However, we know we have, and that's just dean's office funding and NASA New Jersey space grant, but we know we have, in addition to, people have student startup money, and that's not going to be in the CSM portion. It used to be, but not anymore. People have startup students. We know we have external funding that funds students. We also have departmental global, which funds students. So it used to be some of that got pushed into the match. Well, I've taken that out. So now this is an addition. And then we also have students who take it for class. We have students who volunteer. So SHP programming is inclusive of all students during summer research. We just have to decide like how many people are allowed in the building, things like that. But we're going to have it because it's so valuable. We had it at a very minimal level last summer and it was successful, and we still had our workshops thanks to Trevor and Allison doing the grad school workshops, Nathaniel doing the career workshops, and I'm probably forgetting somebody else. But we had, we're trying to keep, and then of course our talks, but we're going to do it this year. We will be having some type of SHP kickoff activity where students can come. It'll have to be virtual, but we have to make sure that the entrance into SHP is open to everyone and not just for that inner group of people who knows what's going on. So that's a really big goal for our college and school this summer. So one of the things we tried last fall was having this dean's coffee hour, and it really kind of fell flat, but we tried. I mean, it was fine, but it didn't really achieve what we were looking for. But a good thing came out of it. And during our first coffee, I think it was Allison Kelly in chemistry, a lecturer, and it might have been, and I might be remembering it wrong, maybe Kristen Barrett from chemistry was there, although it might have been another lecturer. They said, we feel like we don't have a community. Like, I know the people in my department, but you know, we're not on campus anymore. A lot of people aren't on campus, and we don't know who the other lecturers are. And so we thought, oh, well, let's do that. Let's build a lecturer community. So Jennifer Rebelli, our assistant dean, now has these community meetings of web or Zoom meetings. And we had our first meeting in fall 2020, which was talking about building community and engaging students. And they had brief presentations and breakout sessions for introductions and about how you focus, how do you engage students in an online environment. And I think it was really successful. They had about 26 lecturers there. The next session is scheduled for February 26th. And the topics for these are lecturer driven. Like, these are from what Jennifer told me the lecturers want. It's not like the dean is assigning these topics. People want to know, the lecturers want to know more about the promotion and recontracting info session. So there'll be a February 26th, there's going to be an info session. I've asked the Faculty Center to do a special promotion document, a promotion webinar for people who have the required hours to go up early for promotion. And so Bonnie Angeloni said that she would do that, but there's some CSM SHP specific questions probably that we're going to address at the February 26th. One thing I think is important is that the promotion document and the recontracting document are the same, because we're not going to have this thing, because it used to be with TNR and promotion, they were different documents, and that's just not, it's not a good thing. So end of March, there'll be a course navigation, instructor tools, tips and tricks in Canvas, external add-ons. Like, what are the external things that people are using that they really can't do without now? The plan is for fall to be back on campus, back to normal, but that doesn't mean that our best practices from our online teaching need to go away. And then the end of April will be academic integrity. And wow, we know it is a disaster. The dean's office sit on those academic integrity committee hearings. And so if you don't think we know, we know. And so Chegg and Course Hero, those are awful businesses, but Chegg has had its record stellar profit this year. So it was actually, I think, in the reported on like some, Bloomberg News. So it's really awful. But we have to get ahead of it because it's not going away. It's probably just going to get worse. I mean, I remember a student coming up to me in 2014 showing me Chegg and all the other students looking at him with daggers. And I just pretended like, oh, okay. And then I looked it up and it's like, oh, great, this is awful. The whole thing is on there. Every single problem you ever want to know is written out and done. So we have to get ahead of it. And we have to know how are we going to deal with it, because it is not going away. So this almost last thing is communication is really important. We have bi-weekly leadership meetings with department heads and department chairs. I'm hoping that at every department meeting, they have an update from dean's meetings, because that information is not secret, it is meant to be shared. But we also have weekly CSM faculty, student, and staff announcements, and also student weekly announcements. And those are separate. If you would like to see what the students are getting, all you have to do is let Bridget know and she can send them to you. But it's really important that you look at the weekly announcements, because they have important information that you actually need to know. The open rate for both of those are between 30 and 40%. I know that that doesn't include, some of you might just look at it in your reading pane, and if you don't click on it, it's not going to say you opened it. So I really do think that more than 30 or 40% people are reading it. They're just looking at the information that's put in the reading pane, and it's enough for you to know what you need to know. In our Dean's Office webpage, we have faculty, staff, Confluence access. Confluence has all the official policies and information that you need to know. Obviously sometimes it's hard to find things on the website, but it's in every single announcement. So you can always go to the weekly announcements to get that. It's also on our website. So, people have been here for a long time might already know this, but if you're brand new, there are things you don't know, and you really should follow the policies. So know that a lot of the official policies are put there. Your department head and chair really should be giving you an updates from the leadership meetings, and please read the faculty staff announcements. And then the last thing is that you just received an email yesterday about a university COVID update that's happening this Monday, February 8th at 2 p.m. Your email has the WebEx link for it. And this is going to have all your questions and information for the surveillance strategies. We have, let's see, it's Ben Carone and Claude Krimenacher and someone else. Is it Tom Keck? Doing the surveillance of the poop squad, is that what it's called? Looking for, and I can't remember, I don't see, Greg doesn't have his camera on, so he can't say if I'm right or not. But they're going to give us data about the cases, but also about employee vaccinations, reporting illnesses, quarantine, student life, and new coronavirus strains. I know that the communications for the students testing coming back to campus was a disaster. Not our fault. I'll just say not our fault. But so that Monday is going to have more information about, everything to deal with the vaccinations and COVID. The last thing I'm going to end on is what I've ended on almost every time in College Assembled, is Henry Roan's quote about, "I've never been content with the status quo. To my mind, satisfaction has always been the enemy of progress." And we get a lot of resistance when we try to do things differently. And people will go say, "Oh, we can't do that." And they'll point to the union, or they'll point to the faculty handbook, or they'll point to, "No, it's better the way we've always done it." And, if you're satisfied with what you're doing now and you're never going to change, then we're never going to make any progress. And we have to push ahead. Sometimes we're going to make mistakes, but sometimes we're going to hit gold, and we're going to make progress. Places, companies like Coursera and Udacity and all those online learning platforms, they've had their best year ever, and companies are discovering them, and companies are discovering they are an effective way of training their employees. And while they won't displace higher ed, they're going to take a huge cut of higher ed, and higher ed needs to change, or we're going to shrink. And, I know when global first started and all this online learning started, there was huge resistance to it. But my global revenue is twice the amount of our operating budget. And it hasn't been that our operating budget has been cut. It's just been stagnant. Without the global money, we are not buying instruments. We are not doing learning assistance. We are not doing summer undergraduate research program. We are not, XYZ. I mean, this really is giving us a lot of resources. Now, it needs to be high quality, and that's where we need to really work hard. But if you just want to teach the way you were teaching back in the 1990s, that is status quo, and that is not progress, and that is not improvement. And we really need to really push hard, because higher ed depends on it. So that's what I have to say. I do want to thank everyone's hard work during these difficult times, because the times are difficult, and it's sad too. Walking right now, we're seeing a beautiful picture of Science Hall with no one around, right? Well, that's what the campus looks like, and that's very sad. And walking around campus with nobody on campus is depressing. The energy is gone, and it's difficult to work in conditions like that. A lot of people have other stresses outside of work, and we recognize that. And so I do appreciate how hard everyone's working in the situation that we're in now. And we're going to get out of it, and we're going to get stronger. But I think it's important to recognize that things are hard. So that's what I have for the presentation, and now we can get to questions.
Yeah, okay. I was just going to ask you to stop sharing your screen for a second.
I'm well trained.
Okay, so if you guys want to put on your grid view, then you can see all of us. We do have quite a few questions, Karen. So the first couple have to do with the with SHP, the Summer Undergraduate Research Program. We have a question about, will it be remote or in person? And I think we touched on this a little bit, but maybe we can elaborate. And also, will SHP students be eligible for SHP this year?
Sure. Okay, so the answer is yes, SHP is eligible for SHP this year. We have to stay with it, and SHP will be on campus. We have to stay within the SHP, the COVID class enrollments. Now, the good news is that, because I think summer, and I shouldn't say this, my assumption is that our summer on-campus presence is not going to be as high as it usually is coursework-wise. Is that true, Greg and Peter? So they're mostly remote during the summer. So that means that some of the classrooms are going to be empty. So if our research has to spread out more from the labs, it might be that you're only allowed a certain number of people in the research labs, but the other students can go to a classroom and spread out and do their work, as opposed to sitting in the write-up room on top of each other. So we have to practice social distancing. We have to have mask use. And that means that if you're in the same room, and I don't care if you're 6 feet apart, you're wearing a mask. Anytime you're in that building, you are wearing a mask. And it shouldn't be that the dean walks through and sees your students aren't wearing their masks and has to tell them, you need to be doing that. So, I expect that we'll have an on-campus summer undergraduate research program where we have as many students possible on campus, as long as we are within the COVID room capacity and we spread out. The good news is that the buildings are empty. If you go over to Robinson, I've never seen an in-class in Robinson. I know they're there in the labs, but so we have space. We'll have to be smart about, scheduling students like we did when we were really tied down. I mean, we had people turning in. I'm going to have 2 students from 7 to 11, 2 students from 11 to 3, 2 students from 3 to 7, 2 students from 7 to 11. I mean, that it might be that we schedule like that. But my goal is to have an on-campus undergraduate research program. Rowan is prioritizing faculty with health conditions and over 65, and I hear people are getting vaccine appointments. So once we get through half of the population of New Jersey who fits into that category, we'll get on to other people. But who knows, maybe more people will be vaccinated by then too. So that's the goal. And yes, SHP, when I say CSM, sometimes I forget to put in SHP, but SHP, I know that HES has global money that they're putting forward it, and some of their new faculty have students undergraduate money that was part of their startup, and then there's also money available to support additional students. So yeah.
And we just got another question on how do students sign up for SHP, and I know we're trying to work on a revised website, but do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So every department has a process, and we usually have a kickoff SHP event, which kind of gets the buzz going about, hey, there's a summer undergraduate research program and this is what it is. And then every department has some type of application where they gather the names, they get their student preferences, and then the department meets and then they select their students. We try not to tell departments how to do it, but we do have money set aside and incentive monies to make sure that people's research labs are inclusive and represent all students, not just the students who are typically in there all the time. So we'll talk more about that at our next leadership meeting. but we're not starting from scratch. We've been doing this for the past 7 years. Departments have a process. We're going to review the process to make sure that it's considerate of DEI initiatives and planning, but we will have a kickoff event. Departments will have their own process, and we'll work together to get it to work. Did that answer it, Bridget, you think?
Yes.
Okay.
We have quite a few questions on the School of Nursing and Health Professions. I'm going to try and make sure that I catch all of them.
Okay.
So just bear with me. I think I'm going to ask you all of them, and then you can answer them kind of together. Will the nursing school at RCSJ be enveloped by or join with SNHP? Will there be a location shift to Sewell that would potentially be for all programs under SNHP, including AT, health promotion, and public health? And hold on.
Before, let me get these two first.
Okay.
Because I'll forget what they are. Nothing has been discussed about joining RCSJ nursing with Rowan. Yeah. First of all, that would require so much paperwork to the CCNE. Like, that's not going to happen. They would never do anything like that without talking with nursing. Like that's just not, no one's mentioned that to me, but I think it's very far down the lane. Now, if you're going to say, hey, in 10 years from now, do you think we're going to have a BSN where it's kind of invisible to the students, but RCSJ is more a part of, Rowan to offer a BSN degree? I wouldn't say that was, a stupid idea, stupid thing to say, but it also hasn't been said. Like, is it possible? Yeah, that it might be possible, but there's so much to do between point A and point B that's like a 10-year process. What I told you, you can actually go to the Board of Trustees Academic Affairs Subcommittee thing, and I can give it to you. That's what I know. So nursing, RCSJ and Rowan Nursing are not joining, okay? The next thing is there going to be relocation of programs. There will be a presence of School of Nursing and Health Professions at Sewell, but to say, will athletic training move? Like, there's no space there. Like, where are you moving? Like, there would have to be a brand new building for any program to move, including our nursing. And our nursing was there, and they were too big, and we only have like 6 people, and they were too big to be in that RCSJ building. So for any program to move, they're going to have to build a new building. And let's see, that would require RCSJ to build it, which means they have to put it on the ballot, which means there has to be a vote by the voters to build it. And you're talking like a 6-year, 7-year. So if you want to say, hey, within the next 10 years, do you think there'll be some programs that move to RCSJ campus so that we can be closer to the School of Medicine? I would say, in my opinion, yes. But are you moving next fall? No, there's nowhere for you to go unless there's a tent colony. So that's the answer. I think the goal is for there to be a new building next to the Rowan Medicine so that there can be a really close connection between the School of Nursing and Health Professions, especially the affiliated, the allied health and nursing. Now, exercise science and athletic training, you guys have facilities, like real facilities that you need that exist. And we're also building stuff at SB. So, I just don't, no one's talking, that is so far down the pike that you can't, I'm giving you my opinion, that is, and it's totally my opinion, but I am not involved in the planning. The planning, the nursing department and HES will be consulted, because how can they tell you they're going to move you if they don't even know what you need? So those are those 2 questions. So what's the next question on that?
Well, that ties into the next two questions. This comes from nursing and SHP. Can we comment right now on who might be the acting dean for SHP?
No,
Several
because no
people.
one knows. Who knows? Like, who knows? I mean, no, we can't comment. Like, it hasn't been decided. It really hasn't been decided. And so I think what's going to happen, I mean, first, they have to choose a CSM dean. Let's assume we're successful. We hire a CSM dean. Everyone's happy. Then they name the interim dean of the School of Nursing and Health Professions. And that's what it'll be. Let's say this fails. Let's assume they say, oh, we're going to have an interim dean and we're just going to put a hole on everything. And then there's an interim dean of College of Science and Math and School of Health Professions. I mean, there's a lot of different things that could happen. So I think, obviously I understand how everyone wants to know, but you can't know the unknown. It's not known. And no one's told me things, and I'm sharing what I know. No one's told me anything. So you'll know June 30th. I don't know. So anyway, I'll let you know as soon as I know. I will let people know. And I'll also push. I also will push that. I'll say, hey, people want to know what's happening with the School of Nursing and Health Professions. First of all, this is just, they didn't establish it. It's just, it was an announcement to the board to say, hey, this is what we're planning on doing. It's not, this is what we're doing. This is what we're planning on doing. I would say that it'll probably be something that's announced at the June board meeting, if it's going to be for July. So I think it's a June board meeting topic. I'm done.
Okay. I didn't want to cut you off.
Yeah.
Will there be a university-wide undergraduate research symposium this spring?
We meant to talk about that leadership, and then we forgot. We are planning on there being a college and school undergraduate research symposium. And what we were hoping, we have to talk about it, but what we had talked about, and then we forgot to talk about it at the last leadership meeting, so it'll be on next agenda, is that every department would have their own, and then take some of the ones that were especially good, or seniors, or however they want to do it, and then we would have a college and school wide where we'd have students present, because we can't have like a full day thing. So we were going to get people's input, of how they wanted to do it. So we'll discuss that at the leadership meeting, but I think it's going to have to be department wide, and then we'll take like nominations from departments and then make it a college and school wide. Unfortunately, it's just kind of, it got lost in the COVID and the fact that Greg Hecht is on a leave of absence. And this is important, when you have this single point of contact that's running something, and if they leave, if you don't have someone to take over, then things die. And so it's really important work that Greg Hecht has done, and we have to make sure that we continue it. And so I'm hoping the answer is yes, but it's not going to be on campus. It'll be virtual, and we'll have to figure out how to do it best.
Okay. Will the dean candidate forums be recorded for later viewing for those of us with conflicts? And also, if we're teaching at the time of the candidate forum, are we able to join with the students?
No. You can't do that. It's for faculty and staff only. They will not be recorded. And I'm talking, and actually, thank you. No, HR will not allow videotaping. That's what I was just going to say. Absolutely not, because these candidates may not have told their campus they are applying, and it really is not to be shared outside of Rowan, and you're just not allowed to videotape. And also, if I were a candidate I would not want to be videotaped. Just no. I'm not involved with the search. I can only tell you that scheduling things is really hard, and unfortunately, sometimes there are conflicts. And I don't know what to say other than talk with your colleagues maybe, or try to arrange it so that you can, I don't know what to do, but unfortunately there's just conflicts that we can't get around.
I mean, if they have a particular question, maybe they could have someone ask it on their behalf.
Yeah.
And it's also my understanding that the students will have an opportunity to participate in the candidate process as well.
Mary Lou Kerwin is our, Ken Lacavera is the chair of the search committee, but Mary Lou is the co-chair, and she's kind of running the show. So I'm going to assume that if you have a question that needs to be asked, please send it to Mary Lou, or Mary Lou can tell you how to do it. So Mary Lou, if you want to put something in the chat to answer that question, that would be good. If what I said is okay.
Okay, if someone wants to get in touch with the Rowan University Institute for Cannabis Research, how do they get involved? Is that reaching out to Jim Grenius?
Well, it really depends on what aspect you're interested in. So I think the best, if you are, into the chemistry and the pharmacology and the therapeutics and, the medicinal uses, then yeah, Jim Grenius would be your contact. But if you're more interested in the impact on health equity, that is something that you're going to be teaming up with an interdisciplinary group, probably people in law justice, political science, sociology. So I guess if you're not sure, contact the dean's office and we can let you know. We have a website. You can see the Institute's website on the research page, the research division page.
It's in process.
I was going to say it's under construction. We are far along compared to the other colleges. Right now, the chest link is broken. Business doesn't have one. But we felt it was really important to get it online because people are actually already looking to partner with Rowan. And so having contact information is important. Finding out who each other is important as well. I noticed in the chat that when I said, if we feature ones that are the best ones, would that exacerbate DEI? And the question is no, because we're not going to just choose. It's not going to be a summer camp for boys. When we choose, we always choose so that we increase diversity. So that is just something that we always have to keep in mind. But then the thing is that if you want to get involved, contact Jim if it's more of a science, but then contact us and we can make sure that we have you featured in either our page or the other site, because there will be something when we get to the point we'll have affiliated faculty. We'll make sure that you and your work is featured wherever it is relevant. Go ahead, Bridget.
Okay, we have a question that's getting back to the applications.
For what? For CERP?
The applications being down compared to previous years. So the question is, was the data for first-time, full-time students, and how are we faring with transfer students?
I think it's data is, and David Manley, you can put a chat in if you know the answer to it, but I think it's first-time, full-time freshmen. It's not transfers, but that's my understanding. And so I don't think it involves transfers, but I could be wrong. So I don't know. So yeah, data's for first-time, full-time, says David. And so transfers, and I don't know what the answer is for transfers. Although I do know community college enrollment is down. And if community college enrollment's down, then the number of people coming up through Rowan is down. And it's actually a big problem, I think, in both RCSJ. Their enrollment is down. And the same thing for all community colleges nationwide.
This is more of a comment, I believe, rather than a question, but Communities are built through committee service. Lecturers need to be on college-wide and university-wide committees.
Yeah,
So
they're faculty, so I don't understand why they're not. I mean, when the Senate committees go out, you should put your name in, and that might be something that the Senate needs to know, that when they send those committee things, like, hey, what committees do you want to be on? They need to send them out to lecturers. And perhaps, this is not something that should come from administration. This is something the University Senate should talk about. A lot of times they say there has to be so many from this college, so many from that college, how many professional staff, blah, blah, blah. Maybe there needs to be lecturers, on that as representation. So that's not something for, the dean to tell the Senate, but that's something for your senators to talk about at the Senate, saying, hey, when we look at committee, maybe there should be, like we have for professional staff, maybe there's, lecturers. Or note that the lecturers better be asked to be on those committees because they're faculty. So that's a Senate issue, and it's a very good issue. It's a very, and I'm sure, I don't know, I shouldn't say I'm sure they've talked about it, but I would have assumed they would have, but. I know for our college committees, we have lecturers on representation. So we have that, so.
I'm gonna just ask Jennifer and Colleen to take a quick look at the Q&A box and make sure that I didn't miss anything.
It looks like everything was answered.
Okay.
That we found in the questions.
And we are at 3:08, so I think this is a good time.
Yeah, good time to end.
To stop.
Well, so I just want to thank everyone for coming to the College and School Assembled. It's really a wonderful thing that so many people came. If you have questions that didn't quite get answered, or you want additional information as it comes up, please let us know so that, when the information does come up, we can let you know. I will always share information that I get, and I will push hard to make sure that plans are shared and people are consulted before the plans are made. In fact, I've sent an email to Roberta that's already said, hey, we've been doing this for 7 years, and there's a lot of things that are important to think about. Maybe you want to talk with us, and here's some things you should think about. So I got an email that said absolutely, but she's not far along in this. And what was shared at the Board of Trustees is what has been done so far. It's not like there's a secret plan. There just isn't. So anyway, everyone, thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of the Friday. And again, thank you so much for hard work during such difficult times. And this is Hale-Bopp, by the way, and that's Mauna Kea Observatories. So David knew, but I don't know if anybody else knew. David Class.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye-bye.